Hi, I'm Eric Voss, and the new Venom movie starring Tom Hardy has a new teaser trailer that's pretty much all tease and not much trail. Yeah, we still don't get to see Eddie Brock in his true Venom form unless you count that spooky face at the end. But looking closely, there are definitely a few interesting shots worth noting with clues that could point to this being an actual movie and not a fan-made trailer. So let's go through this frame by frame and find out whatever beans this teaser is willing to spill beyond the fact that Tom Hardy is in this movie. Bombshell. Spoiler warning if that's even possible, and let's take a looky-loo.
Everyone's got their thing. Maybe it's a breakup, a death.
Okay, the first half of this trailer shows us some super exciting shots of Eddie Brock lying in a hospital MRI machine. But look closely in that lab and you can see an X-ray showing Brock's spine. Now, in the classic origin story for Venom, an extraterrestrial symbiote attached itself to Spider-Man, giving him a cool shape-shifting black suit, but screwing with the sense of identity. So he used the sonic waves from a bell tower to detach it, where it then latched onto Peter Parker's rival Daily Bugle reporter, Eddie Brock. You may remember this version of events playing out in Spider-Man 3 with Topher Grace as Eddie Brock, who, wasn't that bad. But there have been various versions of Venom over the years in the comics. One has Eddie Brock getting cancer and using the symbiote to cure himself. And one of the later hosts was Flash Thompson from Peter Parker's high school days. His army service left him as an amputee, and the symbiote attached to him, healing him and turning him into Agent Venom, who could actually control the symbiote, and then he later became Anti-Venom. Now, I'm bringing all this up because maybe this movie is using some element of this kind of medical backstory, with maybe this movie Eddie Brock suffering some spinal injury and using the symbiote to heal himself. But when it comes to comic influences, notice how this story is set in San Francisco, not New York, where the Venom Spider-Man stories are normally set. This is because director Ruben Fleischer has said he's pulling a lot from the Venom Lethal Protector comic series. The first time Eddie Brock was the main character / hero of this story instead of a villain to Spider-Man. In that storyline, Eddie Brock reaches a sort of truce with Spider-Man and moves to San Francisco, where he runs into an organization called the Life Foundation and 5 offspring symbiotes. Actually, a first look photo that was released a little while back confirmed this, with Eddie Brock holding open a reporter's notebook, where if you zoomed in, flipped it, and reversed it, you can see the words Life Foundation. Yeah, I'll talk about these guys later. Then we see Michelle Williams' character. It sounds like she's playing Anne Wayne. In the comics, she's a lawyer who has a kind of toxic relationship with Eddie. Actually, at a later point, she bonds with the symbiote too to become She-Venom, because in comics, all characters eventually become super. And before I move on, there's a shot of Eddie Brock sneaking into the lab late at night. Maybe his investigation of the Life Foundation leads to some snooping during which the symbiote latches onto him, and that will kind of be his origin. Now we get some clues onto what could trigger this investigation in the next section.
An accident. Whatever it is, you used to be one thing. Now, you're something else.
Okay, here we get some indications of the mystery that Eddie Brock is investigating. What looks like some burned remains under a tarp. My guess is that they belong to the victims of this crash site in the woods. This looks to me like some spacecraft. Maybe this was the source of the alien symbiote, traces of which might have survived on these remains and then attached themselves to Eddie Brock. And although this Venom trailer is pretty much devoid of venom, I think the showcase element is Tom Hardy. His facial acting here in the MRI is pretty great. The sudden awakening as he faintly realizes a venomous presence inside of him. It's the kind of face I make when I wake up feeling like a spider has crawled into my ear. It's not just an irrational fear, guys, it's gonna happen. Let's move on.
We all have our own problems. Our own issues.
Okay, here we get our one look at the raw symbiote in this trailer, encapsulated inside this container, fawned over by Riz Ahmed's character. Now, it's not confirmed, but he may be playing Carlton Drake, the head of that Life Foundation group I talked about earlier. So, in the comics, the Life Foundation is a survivalist society that has prepared for the nuclear holocaust and the utopia that they would want to build thereafter. Now, they get their hands on the symbiote and use it to form 5 offshoot symbiote incarnations named Agony, Phage, Riot, Lasher, and Scream. In the Lethal Protector series, Spider-Man and Venom team up to fight these 5. And I may be reading into things here, but notice how there are conveniently 5 scientists standing behind Riz Ahmed here. Saying these could be the host bodies of those 5 symbiotes, if this movie decides to even go that way. And I would say that would leave Riz Ahmed as a possibility for Carnage. Now, it was announced last year that Carnage would be in this movie. We just don't know who's playing him yet. In the comics, Carnage's origin was the convict named Cletus Cassidy, a truly disturbed psychopath who at one point shared a prison cell with Eddie Brock, whose symbiote produced an asexual offspring that latched onto Cassidy, who later broke out and became Carnage, one of the most shockingly violent villains in all of Marvel Comics. If this movie revises that origin story, I would just hope whichever character hosts the Carnage symbiote is already a deranged person, because that more extreme state is really the main thing that separates Carnage from Venom as characters. And with some generic car crash footage and Tom Hardy jogging in the woods, we move on to the final part of this trailer.
Demons.
So here we get one of the most interesting shots of this trailer. Some corporate setting where suddenly the employees and computer monitors are swept away as if hit by a telekinetic shockwave of some kind. Now, the editing sequence suggests that Eddie Brock's reach in the previous shot caused this, but I'm guessing it's from a completely different scene. Also, telekinesis or a force push, whatever this is, isn't really part of Venom's powers or the abilities of any of the symbiotes that we've seen in the comics before. However, look closely again at this shot. The computer and phones and desk lights get blown away, along with the employees, but the chairs, the wireless keyboards, mouse pads, and post-it notes are still standing. So why is some of this stuff getting pushed, but not all of it? It's a stretch, but I'm thinking this could be connected to Carnage. In the comic series Carnage Unleashed, Carnage sends his symbiote through computers and communication lines. He actually kills an internet hater who tries to claim that he's just a hoax. He drills into the guy through a computer screen. Yes, it's one of the goofier ways Carnage kills people in the comics. You know, it's always kind of weird when superheroes can just become part of computers. It's not how the internet works. It's not plumbing. I'm just saying that Carnage infecting this office's hardwire might explain why only really the communication technology and the guys wearing these phone headsets are getting swept away here, while the other furniture isn't. And then finally, there's Eddie Brock back in that MRI as the symbiote gets activated and starts to take over, and he doesn't like it. Now, I'm not sure why the MRI is triggering this. It creates its scans with electromagnetism and radio waves, not sonic ones. But if you look closely, you can see the black liquid snaking up the veins in his neck. This is interesting because in past depictions of this transformation, the symbiote spreads over Brock's skin, smothering him like an inky, sticky blanket. Gross. Whereas here, Venom infects his bloodstream, very much like snake venom, which in some ways is a more accurate reflection of this inside-out way the symbiote haunts his mind and personality. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, let's listen again to the voice from Tom Hardy that we've been hearing throughout this trailer.
You used to be one thing. Now, you're something else.
I'm wondering if this isn't the voice of Eddie Brock, but the manifestation of Venom's voice inside Eddie's mind.
Everyone's got their thing, their own demons.
I don't know, it could be a taunt from the symbiote as he explains to the host the nature of his
Psychological infestation.
You can always count on Tom Hardy for bringing a really weird voice to a superhero movie, can't you?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.
Question for you guys. Do you want to see Peter Parker cameo in Venom? There were some rumors that Tom Holland was spotted on the Venom set, but I don't know if the family-friendly neighborhood Spider-Man belongs in this story. Comment with your thoughts down below or tweet me directly at EA Voss and follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. And of course, subscribe to New Rockstars for breakdowns of all the big trailers to drop this week. Deadpool, Avengers Infinity War, Solo, a Star Wars stories. And if you really like this channel and want to help us grow, you can contribute to us on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our donors, especially Alan Fleming. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.